If you're a self-taught beginner watercolor artist who's never had proper training and you feel like every time you look at your painting, parang may kulang pa din, then this video is for you. We're going to break down 3 simple watercolor techniques that you can apply to your next painting right away. We've worked with over 200 beginner watercolor artists. After applying these simple techniques, they leveled up their paintings and felt more confident with their works. If gusto mo din makagawa ng artworks that look like this or this or this, then make sure to stick around until the very end. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you can stay updated with our latest watercolor tips and techniques. If you're an aspiring Filipino artist who wants to learn the basics and develop your confidence and artistic talent in watercolor, then we invite you to hop on a consultation call with us and see if you're a good fit to join our online watercolor painting course. We've taught over 200 Filipino beginner watercolor artists how to paint stunning florals, portraits, and landscapes in just a matter of months. Our pro watercolor mentors, Sir Ian De Jesus and Sir John Lapore, who have a combined experience of over 20 years as professional artists, will give personalized feedback on your paintings through live Zoom sessions. You'll get to join our community of fellow watercolor artists who are just as passionate and creative as you are. Ready ka na ba? You can book a consultation call with us to see if you're a good fit for our online watercolor painting course. The link is in the description. We once asked a beginner watercolor artist, how do you start your painting? Sabi niya,
well, I just paint. It depends on how I feel.
We've heard so many beginners say the same thing. They just start painting with no plan, no reference, no direction, all freestyle. Guilty ka ba? Let us know in the comments. Okay lang mag-freestyle if you wanna just vent out your emotions or if you wanna do abstract art. But honestly, this is not the way to go if you're a beginner who actually wants to develop their painting skills. The first thing you need to do is always use a reference photo. Ang daming beginners that believe in the misconception that painting without a reference makes you more creative or more of a better artist. Iba kasi pag 100% galing sa imagination. But let's get this straight. Those expert artists that can draw and paint without a reference, hindi yan galing purely sa imagination lang. They've spent years perfecting their craft, to the point that they've completely downloaded all those details into their visual library. Ano ba yung visual library? Your visual library is your memory of visual references. All the pictures, videos, real-life objects that you've seen is basically stored here. If I ask you to paint a peony, you tap into your visual library para magawa mo siya without even looking at a reference. If ilang beses mo na siya na drawing or na paint before, it becomes easier. But if never mo pa tong nagawa, then you'll notice your painting might look inaccurate and parang hindi na siya mukhang peony. It's hard to picture out the details and baka yung placement ng petals or shape ng flower, medyo iba na. You struggle because you haven't trained your visual library enough. As a beginner, you really have to start with references so you can train your eye for detail and ma-develop yung visual library mo. When you're painting with watercolors, always start with your lightest colors first and work your way into darker shades. Watercolor is known for its transparency. If you know how to handle it properly, you can create stunning layers and ethereal-looking pieces like Agnes Cecil, for example. However, kapag nagsimula ka with darker colors, then hindi na makikita yung lighter tones afterwards. And most likely, magiging weird na yung pag-blend. The painting will look like it was stained or muddy. It'll come off dark and moody. Additionally, you will have a hard time controlling how light or dark your piece will turn out. Kunwari, you're painting a landscape set in the morning, and then you go too hard with the shadows first. It will probably look more like a night scene instead. If you've tried other paints like gouache, acrylic, or oil painting, they're more opaque. So okay lang if you start with darker colors. If you layer it over with lighter colors, makikita pa din sila. Plus, if magkamali ka, it's actually easier to redo the layers and just simply paint over them. But with watercolor, hindi pwede. you can't just erase your mistakes. If you start with lighter colors first, you can build them up to your liking and you'll have control over the final painting. Actually, yung pag-paint ng light to dark was something that one of our students, Gretchen, struggled to learn. She had a hard time adding the shadows on her portrait painting. Sabi niya,
nakakatakot kasi one mistake will ruin everything.
she wanted to make sure that her piece was perfect, that she was doing everything right. Ang hirap. But after enough practice and guidance from our mentor, Sir Ian, Gretchen learned how to properly layer colors and blend them realistically. It took a lot of work and trial and error. Sabi niya,
Kahit mahirap, we have to keep going. Pag nagpadala tayo sa takot, wala tayong improvements. Okay lang magkamali. It's part of learning.
so let's be honest here. Learning how to layer your watercolors will take time and practice. You will make a lot of mistakes, but you will also learn a lot of things in the process. Like how to plan out your painting, how to layer your colors carefully so that you don't waste any paint. Look at your reference photo and think about how you'll build up your layers of color. As a guide, start with your lightest and warmest colors first, then layer yung mga darker and cooler colors on top. In case you're not sure what warm colors are, they're your shades of yellow, orange, and red. Cool colors naman are blue, purple, and green. Darker, cool colors will overpower any other color layer underneath. So again, next time you start a new watercolor piece, start with your lightest colors first. When you look at this painting, what captures your attention first? Hindi ba nagpa-pop out yung silhouette ng hair? This is a painting by famous watercolor artist Kellogg's Loops. You might notice that even in his other pieces, he still makes use of this white space. Yung tawag dyan is negative space. Basically, instead of focusing and adding details sa main subject mo, you use the empty space to draw attention. The usual technique is that you paint your subject na sobrang ganda yung details and then medyo mas simplified yung backgrounds. But with negative space, you capture the viewer's attention by adding less details. Unconventional siya, so it makes your painting stand out in a unique way. Looking at Kellogg's Loops artworks, it looks like parang sobrang advanced na yung technique na to. But actually, even a beginner like you can easily learn this and start to add more depth in your watercolor paintings. Here's a painting from our student Donna. She used negative space in how she layered her colors. This is a very simple but very effective activity, so we invite you to try this out as well. First, lightly sketch out the outline of your subject. In this case, it's the leaves and the stem. Paint around it with a light color. Really fill the whole background while being careful to avoid your subject. Next, repeat the shape. You can lightly sketch it out if you want, just make sure to avoid your white silhouette. Paint the background with a darker color than before. Carefully avoid your first vine shape and the new one you just sketched. You should have your main unpainted vine in white, your new vine outline in your first color, and your background in a second darker color. Repeat this process again with two increasingly darker colors. Make sure to avoid any of the previous silhouettes you made. And that's it. Your painting will look like this. Ang galing, diba? It's a simple technique that can give more depth and dimension in your next watercolor painting. Once you get the hang of it, ang dami pang ways to incorporate this to create even more interesting artworks. Our very own watercolor painting students have learned these techniques and much, much more. They've transformed their artworks from this to this. If you're a self-taught watercolor artist who has struggled to improve and elevate their art for years, and you feel like eto na finally yung time for you to prioritize your personal growth, your mental health, your artistic goals, then we invite you to join our online watercolor painting course. We'll teach you how to paint stunning portraits, florals, and landscapes with the help of pro watercolor experts that will give you personalized feedback on your artworks through live Zoom sessions. You'll be with a supportive community of fellow aspiring watercolor artists who are in this journey with you. No experience required. Sign up with the link in the description to book a free consultation call with us to see if you'd be a good fit. In the meantime, if you're struggling with keeping your watercolors bright and vibrant, make sure to check out this video so you can avoid muddy watercolors using basic color theory.